This video is brought to you by 3, bringing you 4G at no extra cost and some exclusive deals over at btech.com. Here's a question for you. Do you get the HTC One Mini 2 or do you get the HTC One M7, last year's flagship with a different spec sheet? This is going to be great for anyone who wants a slightly larger, sharper screen, but the One Mini 2 looks just like a small version of the M8, which frankly sounds amazing. Well, that's why we're here. We're comparing both of them for you, so hopefully by the end of the video you'll know exactly which one is right for you. The HTC One was such a design highlight last year. It really did make those boom sound speakers synonymous with HTC. It also brought aluminium bodies up to the next level when it came to Androids. This was the first phone that really competed with Apple in terms of design and won in many cases, winning a shed load of awards. But it wasn't perfect. That volume rocker didn't protrude anywhere near enough, and that power button, despite sporting an infrared blaster as well, was also far too fiddly to press. But the M8 addressed all those issues and brought with it a much better design in our opinion. It was more curvaceous. Do you know what else does exactly that? The HTC One Mini 2. It's virtually identical to the M8. More protruding power button, more protruding volume rocker as well, and of course you've got that gorgeous curvaceous rounded brush metal design. The sides aren't quite so flat. It feels more ergonomic in the hand. The One Mini 2 is also narrower, it's more manageable, so a lot of people might prefer it. But if you're in a shop and you see these two side by side, this is a little bit more powerful than the One Mini 2, and they'll come across at a very similar price point. Which would you get? Well, this comparison's comparing both, and we're going to start off by just telling you about some key design highlights on the One Mini 2. Right hand side, you've got a micro SD card slot. This is expandable by up to 128 gig with 16 gig on board already. Now the HTC One isn't expandable, but you've got 32 gig as standard or 64 gig depending on the version that you get. You've also got, like we said, that volume rocker which protrudes significantly more. At the base, micro USB port. On the left hand side is the nano SIM card slot, while up at the top is a 3.5mm headphone jack and a power button. You may not be able to see it, but it is easier to press, a little bit easier to press than that of the HTC One. 13 megapixel camera around the back, by contrast to a 4 ultra pixel camera around the back of the HTC One. So anyone who complained about a lack of detail, this should technically make up for it, though we have to put it through its paces before we can affirmatively answer that. Up at the top you've also got an NFC contact point and a flash. That brushed metal finish really does ooze premium, and it definitely feels like a flagship, even if it isn't one. If we put that down to one side, we can take a look at some highlights on the HTC One original. Those boom sound speakers up top and bottom. You've also got a front facing wide angle camera. We forgot to mention the One Mini 2 camera is 5 megapixel backside illuminated front facing. Right hand side, that volume rocker that doesn't protrude anywhere near enough, but with its circular pattern looks fantastic. You've also got a micro USB port, and on the left hand side no buttons, but you have got a micro SIM card slot. Up at the top of that, power button doubling up as an IR blaster, which you don't have on the One Mini 2, and a 3.5mm jack. On the flip side, that camera, NFC contact point and flash. Generally, both devices look so premium, but we can't deny the in-hand sensation with the HTC One Mini 2 is just better. That said, the screen isn't as sharp. It doesn't have that incredible pixel density of the HTC One. Full HD, 4.7 inches, 720p, 4.5 inches. So slightly larger, but much more resolution on that display. If we take a look throughout the UI, you can also see they are relatively similar, although they have different versions of Sense. They're both Android 4.4, but you've got Sense 5.5 on the HTC One. It should get Sense 6 down the line, but if you want Sense 6 now, you'll have to opt for the HTC One Mini. Sense 6 introduces a whole load of color advancements. You've also got a few user interface tweaks, such as in the applications tray. Really makes sense we just talk you around one of these devices, but we'll probably do it on both concurrently so you can see the difference between the two. Pull down the notifications tray and you have your very stock experience. You can toggle this across through to your quick settings. Long pressing on one of these quick settings will jump you straight through into the shooting mode, into the menu in the applications tray. They'll do that on Sense 6, but it clearly won't do that on Sense 5. You have to press the 3 dots at the base. You've also got on-screen controls on the HTC One Mini 2, whereas you've got two capacitive buttons below the display on the HTC One, a back and a home button. To access a multitasking menu, you have to double tap the home. If we swipe down and flip through to the advanced options on both of these devices, these can be toggled. But one thing that the HTC One Mini 2 has that the HTC One doesn't is extreme power saving mode. Extreme power saving mode, for anyone who doesn't know, was introduced on the HTC One M8, and it allows your phone to turn virtually everything off in the background as far as data goes, when the screen's off at least, and only allow you to access some key applications, meaning you can squeeze an extra day out of your phone. It's a really decent addition. We got an extra day without doubt on the M8 when we used this mode, and it really does depend on how much your screen is on. But if it isn't on too much, you can make your last 10% battery go the distance. You've also got blink feed on both. Blink feed can aggregate social media, but it can also aggregate news pretty extensively. And of course, that applications tray. The applications tray is customizable. You can pull down and tweak whether your grid size, whether it be 3x4 or 4x5, you can access folders, and you can also hide, unhide apps or manage applications from here, or search in apps. Unlike with the HTC One with Sense 5.5, you have to pull down for that menu bar. That is a sticky bar at the top of the Sense 6 menu. And as you can see, you don't have that clock up at the top. So just a couple of key differences right there. As far as the cameras go, you've got a 13 megapixel sensor on the HTC One Mini 2 and a 4 megapixel sensor on the One Mini. The One Mini 2's 13 megapixel sensor will likely pull in more detail in good light, but we reckon will probably perform a little bit worse in low light. In contrast, this is optical image stabilized, so should pull out better low light quality overall, technically speaking. Though, like we said, the real world results will have to wait for our full review. We can open up the camera, we can take a very quick picture, tap to focus of the One Mini 2, and we can see it's quick to take a picture and it takes a relatively decent one. What we like about the camera UI on the HTC One M7 is the fact that you've got both video and photo in one screen. You've got your filters below that, but you do have a relatively convoluted menu system for any image adjustments that you want to make. If we take a look at the HTC One Mini 2's camera UI, you can see it's simpler because you don't have video and photo in one menu, despite the fact we quite like that. You have to jump into another menu for videos, and you can also choose a selfie menu. But we much prefer this system of tweaking settings, and you can even opt for a manual setting, full manual, not just a semi-manual. You've got manual focus, manual shutter speed, manual ISO, as well as manual white balance as well. So the only thing you can't change is the aperture. So locked onto the closest focal range, we can take a picture very quickly. And it did take nice and quickly, that it didn't have to focus, and detail looks to be relatively on point right there. But like I said, for anything more conclusive, you'll have to check back for our HTC One Mini 2 full review. As far as other key highlights go, you've got quad-core processors in both. Qualcomm Snapdragon 400 in the One Mini 2. Qualcomm Snapdragon 600 clocked at 1.7 GHz by contrast to 1.2 GHz in the HTC One M7. You've also got 2 GB of RAM versus 1 GB of RAM. So performance all in all on the One M7 should be significantly better, although power management may be slightly better on the One Mini 2 because it is a newer chipset. Both of these devices have LTE as well, 4G. And yeah, all in all, two great devices. We do prefer the design of the One Mini 2. We never thought we'd say this, but side by side, it just feels more elegant, more curvaceous, and we really don't mind that plastic banding in the slightest. But the screen in the spec sheet on the HTC One M7 may just swing you in its favor. Hopefully you've enjoyed our comparison. I've been Basil with BTech. Make sure if you have and you like the video, click the like button. If you like the channel, want more of the same, subscribe and head over to btech.com. Over there you can find the latest in smartphones, tablets, smart gadgets, as well as some awesome deals. At the top of the screen is where you can find 3 hand-picked videos for your viewing pleasure. On the left is where you can subscribe, and on the right hand side you can find some exclusive deals if you head over to btect.com.